Welcome to Boom and Gloom, where I talk about the good, the boom, and the bad, the gloom of Columbus Blue Jackets hockey. I'm Anthony, or Whaler Jacket, as you might know me on social media, and I am Ohio's longest suffering hockey fan. 48-year-old diehard hockey fan who has only seen his favorite team, currently the Jackets, formerly the Whalers, make it past the first round of the playoffs once. That is a lot of pain and suffering, my friends, let me tell you. As I said last time, though, things are looking up. Thankfully, they are honestly, truly looking up for the Columbus Blue Jackets. The Jackets are playing better, hovering around the 500 mark, and are actually showing us legitimate improvement in their play, while we also see actual development from our young talent. So what is holding us back? Why are we hovering around 500? Why are we not well above 500? That is what I'm going to talk about today. There are two things that I believe are firmly holding this team back. Let's start off with the first one. Goaltending. Elvis Merzlikins and Danil Tarasov. And you know what? I've never been able to say his name. Is it Danil Tarasov. Simply not the answers. They're just not cutting it right now. I personally do not expect either one of them to be on the Blue Jackets roster next season. One way or another, they will be gone. And that is just my opinion, my belief right now. Obviously, things can happen, things can change, but if I were a betting man right now, I would bet that neither one of those guys will be a Blue Jacket next season. Unfortunately, I did not get to see the Blue Jackets lose to the Red Wings. I am recording this on January 3rd, so I'm talking about the game on January 2nd. I do some part-time work at Hobart Arena in Troy, Ohio, so that's what I was doing. I was actually working at the arena. Was not able to see the game, but from what I am told, what I've read, Merzlikins' inability, just his general inability to stop pucks, is what ultimately cost the Jackets the game. And this is getting old, guys. I feel like I'm repeating myself every time I do one of these episodes, because it's always the same situation. Merzlikins needs to go. Now, granted, he has played better this season. He has been better. There was even that one game, and I can't remember the game it was, but I actually said, you know what? Merzlikins stole us that game. He stole us a win. And in my opinion, that has been one of the biggest problems. All NHL goaltenders, again, in my opinion, they have to be able to steal a game once in a while. They have to win a game for their team, a game that if they weren't playing as well as they were playing, they would not get the win. And Merzlikins, I remember, has done it once. Once this year, and I don't recall him doing it at all last year. But he has been better. But again, okay, better is still not good enough. Don Waddell needs to work some kind of magic and get this guy off our roster in the offseason. I guess if he's some kind of Gandalf-esque wizard, I suppose he could be he could trade him before the trade deadline. But who's going to want this guy and his contract? The Jackets would have to take on an equally crappy contract in return, or eat a significant portion of his current one. This is just not a good situation, and it really sucks. And I'm sorry, my phone just vibrated there. Really sucks because the Jackets' forward core is clicking. It's clicking right now. Marchenko is blossoming into a near superstar status, I think. Werenski, and I know he's not a forward, but he certainly contributes to the offense at a very regular pace. You have Werenski. Voronkov is just a beast, putting up big points almost every game. He's either scoring goals or adding assists. Kent Johnson continues to show that Pascal Vincent was an idiot when it came to handling his minutes and his responsibilities. But we got to solve the goaltending issue. And then another thing, we find out that Daniil Tarasov refused a conditioning assignment to Cleveland. What? Are you kidding me? You have the second worst stats of any goaltender in the NHL. And I don't think I'm exaggerating. I think I read somewhere that he has the second worst stats in the NHL. And you think you're too good to go to the AHL for a conditioning stint? Okay, not even a permanent demotion. Just a conditioning assignment to help you get some legit playing time, some significant playing time, and hopefully get your mojo back. But no, Tarasov refused. You can call it what you want. I know a lot of people out there say that that's his right. That's his right per his contract. I get that. He has every right to refuse a demotion to the AHL as part of a conditioning assignment. I get that. I see that. I understand that part of it. But what I don't understand is, I'm just going to say it, how could he be so selfish? As an NHL player, on an expiring contract no less, I would want three things. Okay, I would want, number one, I would want to help my team win hockey games, no matter what the cost. Number two, I would want to get better, to improve. I mean, I think any NHL player, and any player, any level really, they want to improve, they want to get better. I mean, why would you not? Because doing so has a number of benefits. It helps your team win. Helps your team win hockey games. And then number three, to increase the likelihood of a lucrative next contract deal. All those three things. Help my team win hockey games, improve, and increase my likelihood of a better contract. Well, by refusing to report to Cleveland, Tarasov has basically said, I don't want to help my team win hockey games. I don't need to get better. I don't need to improve. And I'm, for some reason, not at all concerned that my poor play this season will affect my contract, because I'm an unrestricted free agent. I think he's unrestricted free agent in the summer. I'm not concerned at all. It just doesn't make sense to me. Why would you not report? Why would you not want to get ice time? Show that you can still be an effective goalie, and then come back up to Columbus, and earn more NHL minutes. I guess it's easy for me to say as a non-professional athlete who doesn't make millions of dollars doing what I love to do. I guess it's easy for me to sit here on the sidelines and say all that. But am I not making sense here? And that was my dog. Sorry if you heard her shake there. There's my dog, Miami. Hi, Maya. You're a good girl. Anyway, the team doesn't trust you right now, Tarasov. Okay, why not swallow your pride, spend 2 weeks up the road in Cleveland, and then come back? My dog is making all kinds of noise. I am so sorry. Maya, what are you doing back there? Oh my goodness, so sorry. Anyway, you come back ready to earn more minutes. Why refuse? Why refuse the help? Because basically that's what the Jackets are doing. They're helping him improve. Why refuse the help to improve? Your next contract depends on how you play this year. And you are not playing well at all. And in fact, you're hardly playing, period. In fact, they brought up the AHL goalie to play over you. And again, different people have different views on this. But I feel like it showed that Tarasov thinks he is better than he actually is. I think we're seeing a bit of an ego. And I have to say, I'm a bit confused as to why the Jackets don't just say, you know what, we're sending you down anyway. And yes, I understand he'd have to go through waivers and there's a risk of losing him for nothing. But at this point, would that really be a big deal? What do you honestly think the return would be in a trade for the guy? And do you really plan on signing him in the offseason to return to the Jackets based on his play this year? He's not even good enough to be an NHL backup right now. And yes, he may eventually find his game, and yes, it may be for another team. But it is not working right now with the Jackets. Cut your losses. I am a little surprised Waddell hasn't moved on from him. And for all I know, maybe he's tried. Maybe, he's looked for deals and it just hasn't worked out. I'm just surprised that nothing has happened to this point. And again, if you lose him to another team to waivers, you sign someone, anyone, or make a minor trade. Get anyone. Chances are, whoever you sign, whoever you get, is going to be a more serviceable backup than him. Let's face it, you just need an average or even slightly below average goaltender, and he's going to be a better option than Tarasov. Then you call up Greaves, okay? Let him be the backup. If you can't work out a trade or a signing, call up Greaves. And then heck, if he lights it up, give him the starting job ahead of Elvis. I'll say it again. Next season, we will not have Elvis or Tarasov on this roster. That's my belief. One way or another, they're not going to be here. And I admit I could be very easily be wrong. But that is what I think at this point is what's going to happen. Waddell is going to go out and get another starter somehow, sign or trade or whatever, and Greaves will serve as the backup or make up a goaltending tandem next season. All right, that's my take on the goaltending situation. Now let's move on to the defense. I probably sound like a broken record. And by the way, I love how I love how that phrase has stuck around, despite the fact that records ceased to be the leading audio medium back in the 1980s, and the fact that, most humans these days have never even listened to a record. And yet we still use that phrase. So I'm using it now. I sound like a broken record when I say that Damon Severson is a huge problem right now. He is a liability. He has got to be one of the most inconsistent defensemen I have ever watched. And I can remember all back to the Dana Merzen days of the Hartford Whalers. And I think he is probably, even more so than Elvis, the most untradeable player on the Blue Jackets roster right now, simply based on his contract. The Jackets have, six more seasons of him, I think? All I can do is just shake my head. I think the two worst contracts Jarmo Kekalainen ever gave out were the ones to Elvis Merzlikins and Damon Severson. And we are seeing the effects of that now. I can't help but think how much better this team would be if we had different goaltenders and a little bit of a different look to our defense. I bet we would solidly be in a playoff position right now. And I am not exaggerating at all. I firmly believe that right now, poor goaltending or below average goaltending has cost the Jackets several games this season. And I also believe poor decisions made by certain defensemen have cost the Jackets games this season. Damon Severson lies at the heart of that. And guys, I apologize. I mean, Damon Severson, if for some strange reason you ever hear this, I have heard that you are just the nicest guy. I've heard you're a great guy, great teammate. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about on-ice play. And what makes it harder for me to stomach is the fact that he is going to be with this team for 6 more years. Okay, maybe less. Okay, once that contract gets closer to the end, maybe it becomes more tradable. Unless Waddell, some kind of wizard, no other team is going to want to trade for him. I don't have the contracts in front of me, but I believe he's the second highest paid defenseman on the team. I think. And he was a healthy scratch recently. Yeah, Severson, you're that bad or that inconsistent, I guess I should say, that the team would prefer to pay you all that money not to play. They feel they have a better chance without you in the lineup. And that is really sad for me. Really sad. And he has been given plenty of opportunities. I mean, Evason has put him back in the lineup and has given him nothing but opportunities to play better. And every time I watch them, I think to myself, man, he's just not doing himself any favors. He's going to stay in that doghouse. And you know what's even more sad? The Jackets are stuck with him. Pretty much stuck with him for the foreseeable future. Then you have Jack Johnson. I have agreed with most of Waddell's decisions, but signing Jack Johnson was not one of them. He has not been nearly as bad as Severson, in my opinion. And I understand that Waddell wanted to bring in a veteran presence on the back end. I get that. I just wish it wasn't Jack Johnson. I wish there was somebody else that he could have brought in for that reason. And then you have Provorov. He's not been nearly as bad as some of those Provorov haters out there make him out to be. But I will admit that I also look forward to him not being a Blue Jacket anymore. Matejchuk has not looked out of place, so I see him as the future. I don't see Provorov as the future. I know that a lot of people have talked about the possibility of actually re-signing him in the offseason and, not trading him at the deadline. Provorov has expressed how much he enjoys being in Columbus with the Blue Jackets. I get all that. I just don't think it makes sense for the Jackets to not trade him, to not look for a partner at the trade deadline. And especially when you have a player like Matejchuk who is ready to jump in the lineup. He certainly hasn't lit it up like he has in the AHL, but he honestly hasn't looked like he doesn't belong in the NHL. I think he's fit in just fine. He hasn't stood out to me as somebody who shouldn't be here. I haven't thought in it, and I know I've missed a couple games here. I've not watched him, but from what I've seen, I haven't looked at him and thought, oh, he needs to go back to the AHL pronto. Haven't thought that. With all that in mind, here's my point. The Jackets have 4 offensive-minded defensemen in their lineup: Werenski, Matejchuk, Severson, Provorov. I'm not sure what the general rule of thumb here is, but I think having 4 of that type of defenseman is too many. So that makes Provorov the obvious choice here if and when Waddell decides to move one of them out. Next year's defense: Werenski, Fabro, assuming they re-sign him, Christensen, Matejchuk, Severson, Goodbranson. Seventh defenseman Harris. That is how it stands right now. But I just can't see the Jackets starting next season with the same defensive core minus Provorov that they have this season. I think that Waddell's going to make a change. I don't know what that is, but I think he's going to do something that shakes up the defensive side of things, and that he'll bring in another defenseman. So that's it. That's my take on the current Jackets goaltending and defense situation. Fabro and Christensen have been solid. They have not stood out as like superstar defensemen, but they've done their job. It's sometimes I believe that when a defenseman goes unnoticed, that's a good thing. I mean, I'm noticing all these boneheaded mistakes that Severson is making, these bonehead decisions that he's making. I notice those things. I don't notice Fabro and Christensen making similar ones. So with that in mind, I'm just assuming they'll be back, but it wouldn't shock me if either of those two were not. Now, everyone knows I am a huge Dean Evason fan. I love the guy, favorite player growing up, but even a super fan like me can call him out on some things I don't agree with. And so there are 2 things I wanted to bring up here as we move along. Number 1, the 7 defenseman experiment has got to go. Jackets have played their last several games with 7 D-men, and has it ever been a long-term solution for any team in the history of the NHL playing with 7 defensemen? My money would be on no, it hasn't. It has never been a long-term solution. So that needs to end immediately, in my opinion. Make a decision about who sits, who the 6 defensemen you're going to go with, and go with it. My vote would be, of course, Severson or even Johnson. Evason will really be pressed to make a decision once Chinnikov and Danforth return from injuries. I mean, I can see them pulling Putia out when one of them comes back. I can see that as a possibility. But when both of them come back, I would think that Evason wants them both in his lineup. So therefore, you got to go back to six defensemen. So somebody's got to come out. The other issue I have with Evason, the thing I can call him out on here, and this, I may be in the minority on this one, but I would love to see Kent Johnson off the penalty kill. I think a more physical, established, defensive-minded guy should be out there in his place. Not that Kent has played horrible on the penalty kills. He hasn't. I just think it might help his offense more, in addition to giving them a little bit of a better penalty kill. You know, it would give Johnson a little bit more rest, maybe a little bit less responsibility, a little bit less to think about, and we might see his offense flourish more than it already has. So just an idea, not a huge complaint, and again, I may be in the minority on that one, but just something I've been thinking about. All right, last thing I want to talk about today, Patrik Laine. Because all that went down after my last episode, and I didn't have a chance to express my opinion on the topic. And my opinion is this. He's dead to me now. Like many fans, I was 100% supportive of him while he was here. Yes, I admit when the Jackets traded PLD for him, I was not super enthused. I didn't really like Laine's style of play, but I was still 100% supportive of him. I wanted him to succeed here. He was a member of the Blue Jackets, so I wanted him to do well. I 100% wanted to see him succeed with Montreal and regain his superstar forward status. Start scoring goals again. Get back to health. I wanted that. But then he had to go and throw his team, my favorite team, under the bus. Threw his teammates under the bus. All he had to do was keep his mouth shut. He could have easily said in that interview, I had a great time in Columbus, I love being there, but it was simply time to move on. Done. No hard feelings, we all move on. But no, he had to open his big mouth, saying the team was, too content with losing, too comfortable with losing, or whatever his exact words were. What the heck, man? The team did nothing but support you. You want to win more? Then how about play better? How about play like you want to win more? Because you know what? You certainly did not live up to the contract we paid you, that the Blue Jackets paid you. The team needed its biggest stars to shine, and you were one of those stars, and you know what? You did not shine much. The city embraced you and showed its love for you. And this is what you do? This is what you say? And then the comment that he made, all I have done, all I've done for the city of Columbus, all I did for the city of Columbus. Patrik, what exactly did you do? I remember one thing. I remember you were going to donate $1,000 for every goal you scored to a charity. I can't remember which. But what happened? You got injured. And then you entered the player assistance program. So you weren't scoring any goals. You weren't donating anything to charity. And someone else, Johnny Gaudreau, rest in peace, decided to step in your place and donate the money. To do what you couldn't or didn't want to do. I didn't hear Patrik Laine say, you know what? I planned on scoring at least 25 goals this year, so even though I can't play, I'm going to donate $25,000 despite my injury, despite my time away from the team. As far as I know, he skipped out on all that money. And listeners, please forgive me if I'm wrong about that. Maybe he did quietly make a donation. But as far as I know, it was never made public. So as far as I know, he did not donate what we expected him to donate. So Patrik Laine, you deserve to be booed. You deserve to be booed every time you touch the puck in Columbus. You deserve to not have a tribute video played for you. I no longer care whether you were happy in Montreal or if you succeed as a player. No, not. You claim to have mental health issues, which caused you to quit on the team. If that's the truth, I get it, and I am truly glad that you are better. But I surely hope that that was indeed the issue that was going on, and not that you were using it as an excuse to not play for the Blue Jackets. There are a lot of people out there who are suggesting that, and I hope it's not true. I hope it's not you quitting on your team, because if that's the case, then you are no better than Jeff Carter or Adam Foote. Some other quick notes. No update on the Stadium Series jersey. Anxiously awaiting that. No news to speak of, though. Somebody somewhere knows something, but nobody is leaking anything at the moment. We are less than 2 months away. I just don't get it. I don't know what the holdup is. I'd be putting that jersey out as soon as possible and raking in the profits from people buying it. I just hope that Boomer makes an appearance that day on March 1st. That would be the best. I mean, that would give the Blue Jackets fans so much to talk about. It would be so fun, and it would really make the day even more special than it already is. Even with something silly like that, with just an old phallic mascot. I'm going to be polite and not mention his name, but I listened to a hockey game on the radio on New Year's Eve, and you can connect the dots here. And I was shocked at how bad it was. This particular announcer could not paint a mental picture of what was going on the ice. Hockey is a fast game. It is a fast sport, and things happen quickly. This particular announcer gets too wrapped up in side notes and talking about a previous play, one that just happened, instead of keeping up with the current play. You find out a goal is scored several seconds after it actually happens. I was just thoroughly unimpressed, and it makes me wonder what some other teams' play-by-play announcers sound like. Maybe I'm too picky. Maybe they're all like that. It has, in fact, been years since I listened to hockey games on the radio. Back in the 1980s and early 1990s, I would listen to Chuck Caton call the Hartford Whaler games. And I remember not being a big fan of his. Even at that time, as a young person, I remember not being a huge fan. But I don't remember ever thinking, man, I just can't picture what is going on right now, and getting frustrated as I think to myself, what's happening right now? What's happening right now? As this particular announcer yammers on instead of calling the quick plays in front of him. It drove me nuts. We're driving somewhere on New Year's Eve, so I couldn't watch the game, so I figured I'd listen on the radio, and it drove me nuts. It was so frustrating. On that note, now that I'm all riled up, I'll end this episode. Please, feel free to connect with me. Find me on social media. Remember, my handle is Whaler Jacket. I'm on Instagram. Remember, I'm no longer on Twitter. You can find me at the Twitter alternative known as Blue Sky. You can find me there, loving it on there. And I hope to be back with you again soon on Boom and Gloom. Thanks for joining me. Take care, everyone. Go Jackets.